Hi, Dr. Rosmith is here. In this slide, we will discuss the social virtues in Islam. The social virtues in Islam. It is difficult to distinguish social from the personal virtue in Islam because the two are so integrally related. The human being is conceived holistically, a single being with physical and mental or spiritual characteristics. So it's difficult to distinguish between the personal virtue and the social virtue because they are related, integrated to each other. As such, we are social creatures. Very little of what we do can be considered to affect society more than it affects ourselves, and vice versa. One who does something that is good for other people has done something that is good for herself or himself, and vice versa. Further, as noted before, that the very purpose of human existence in the Islamic teaching is to serve God. Okay, to serve God. So can refer back to our previous slides. Okay, to serve God, to do the will of God, and that will has been revealed as the mandate to recreate in society the equality all human beings share in the eyes of their Creator. The interrelatedness of virtues in Islam is perhaps most eloquently expressed in the famous Quranic passage. It is not righteous that ye turn your faces towards east or west, but it is righteousness to believe in Allah and the last day and the angels and the book and the messengers, to spend of your substance wealth out of love for Him, for your king, for orphans, for the needy, for the wayfarer, for those who ask, and for the ransom of slaves, to be steadfast in prayer and practice regular charity, to fulfill the contracts which ye have made, and to be firm and patient in pain or suffering and adversity, and throughout all periods of panic. Such are the people of truth, the Allah-fearing. Quran therefore calls for belief in God and revelation. This can be considered a personal virtue, but just as soon as it calls for belief, the Quran moves on to social virtues. Indeed, the Quran gives the impression that the two cannot be separated. Claiming to believe and offering prayers are described as hypocrisy if they are not accompanied by charity and efforts to help the less fortunate. So interesting. So the Quran calls for belief in God and belief in revelation. So soon after that, the Quran moved to the social virtues. And this shows that the two cannot be separated. The personal virtues and the social virtues cannot be separated. And this point says that claiming to believe and claiming to offer prayers is still considered as hypocrisy if it is not accompanied by charity, by social virtues. For example, 107, 1-7. Have you seen the one who makes mockery of religion? It is one who mistreats orphans and works little for the feeding of the poor. Woe then to those who pray yet are neglectful of their prayers, those who pray for show and withhold charity. Quran chapter 107, 1-7. So in the Quran, all virtues is tied to overall goal of human life, to please God by working for social justice. To please God by working for social justice. That is the paradigmatic value. It establishes the context in which to judge all other actions as virtuous or not. Most characteristically, the Quran calls for charity and helping the poor as the way to achieve the goal. And there are many quotations from the Quran. The Quran calls for charity and helping the poor. For example, is this chapter 2, verse 261 to 265. So can read. Charity is actually required by Islam of all adult Muslims in the form of zakat. So this is the obligatory charity, the compulsory charity. A portion of whatever wealth they have over and above that required to maintain their home and meet their responsibilities is to be given to a local authority for the need of the community. Alms are only for the poor and the needy, and the officials appointed over them, and those whose hearts are made to incline to truth, and the ransoming of captives, and those in debts, and in the way of Allah, and the wayfarer, and ordinance from Allah, and Allah is knowing, wise. The Quran, chapter 9, verse 61. In other words, Muslims are required to support local social services, efforts to propagate the faith, diplomacy, hospitality, and whatever expenditures are necessary to further the overall cause of social justice. In addition to required charity, other charity, that is sadaqah, is also recommended. Actually, the Quran says that charity that other people do not know about is best. So this is optional charity. Before this, we have seen there is obligatory, compulsory charity in the form of zakat, and this one now is about optional charity, recommended charity, which is known as sadaqah. The Quran, chapter 2, verse 271. If you give alms openly, it is well, and if you hide it and give it to the poor, it is better for you, and this will do away with some of your evil deeds, and Allah is aware of what you do. In fact, then the Quran encourages people to give continually, to contribute, to give charity continuously. And whatever good thing you spend, it is to your own good, and you do not spend but to seek Allah's pleasure. And whatever good things you spend shall be paid back to you in full, and you shall not be wrong. Chapter 2, verse 272. So this is about optional recommended sadaqah, a charity. The rationale for both required and recommended charity is that wealth is not given to people for their pleasure alone, but to further the will of God, that all human beings be adequately cared for. So this is the rationale, the reason of the required or compulsory or charity and the recommended charity, is that the wealth is not given for pleasure, for people's pleasure alone, but it should be given to further the will of God, because of God, so that all human beings are adequately cared for, so that they can take care of all human beings and can establish justice among society. The Quran always relates such effort towards social well-being to correct belief, and the Quran always relates such effort towards social well-being to correct belief. So related. Quran chapter 2, verse 277. Surely they who live and do good deeds and keep up prayer and pay the poor rate, they shall have their reward from their Lord, and they shall have no fear, nor shall they grieve. The implication is that the charity and good deeds are the natural manifestation of correct belief and prayer. In the Quran's worldview, the one is unthinkable without the other, so they are interrelated. Faith and good deeds, good action are interrelated in Islam, cannot be separated. In fact, good deeds like charity is the manifestation of one's faith. Similarly, Muslims are enjoined to treat one another as they would their own family members. Quotation: Indeed, believers are brothers and sisters, so make peace among brothers and respect God, and the mercy will come to you. Okay, 49:10. So Muslims are enjoined to treat one another, to treat them with respect, okay, goodness, People must treat each other with respect, avoiding gossip and ridicule, which is the source of mistrust among people. So you can see the quotation from the Quran. Trust among believers is essential, and differences of opinion should not distract people from the solidarity necessary to achieve a just society. The Quran says that differences among people are part of God's plan. As already mentioned in the Quran, chapter 49, verse 13, that God already created human beings in different nations and tribes. So it is already part of God's plan. So differences should not distract people from the solidarity. So it should not distract them from the right path, from the real objective. So they need to celebrate differences, to respect, and try to find commonalities and together work in a good way to achieve good objective. The bond among people should be their commitment to doing the will of God, and that should allow them to transcend their petty squabbles. The Quran calls towards competition in goodness. Competition in goodness, judged in terms of deeds done in God's cause. Sabilillah, okay, as-sabilillah. That cause takes precedence even over family bonds. The Quran requires respect of children for parents and sound nurturing by parents of children, but the overall well-being of the community must take precedence over narrow family concerns. You can see the quotation from the Quran. The cause of God, okay, the cause of God must also take precedence over sectarian bonds. The Quran clearly calls for cooperation even among religious groups in doing the will of God. Yeah, for example, the Quran says, "O people of the book, Ahlul Kitab, come to common terms as between us and you that we worship none but Allah, that we associate no partners with Him, that we erect not from among ourselves lords and patrons other than Allah." Chapter 3, verse 64. It is in this very context that the Quran explains the mission of Prophet Muhammad. He has been sent to establish a just community, a median community, Ummat al-Wasit, in the sense that it steers clear of the extremes of other communities. It is a community bound by commitment to God's will. Chapter 3, verse 110, chapter 2, verse 143. Thus we have made you a medium, just nation, that you may be the bearers of witness to the people, and that we, the messenger, may be a bearer of witness to you. You are the best of the nations raised up for the benefit of men. You enjoin what is right and forbid the wrong, and believe in Allah. And if the followers of the book had believed, it would have been better for them. Of them, some are believers and most of them are transgressors.